1. We're diving into a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1985 Cadillac Eldorado. This iconic coupe is a true representation of American luxury from the 80s, and it could be yours for just $9,150. Now, let's take a closer look at what this Eldorado has to offer. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 4.1L V8 engine that's paired with a smooth shifting automatic transmission. With front-wheel drive, this Caddy promises a comfortable ride and easy handling. The odometer shows 126,102 miles, which is pretty reasonable for a car of this age. One of the standout features of this Eldorado is its custom paint job. The seller doesn't provide much detail about the specific color, but it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The car also boasts a stainless steel top, adding to its unique and stylish appearance. According to the seller, this Eldorado has a clean history report and has only had 2 owners. That's a good sign, as it suggests the car has been well maintained over the years. The sale also includes the original owner's manual and build sheet, which is a nice bonus for collectors or those who appreciate having a car's full history. The seller describes the car's condition as good, which is encouraging. However, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and ask for more details about any potential issues or repairs before making a purchase. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Cadillac with a bit of flair, this 1985 Eldorado Biarritz could be a great choice. With its powerful engine, custom paint, and clean history, it's a car that's sure to impress. Just be sure to do your due diligence and thoroughly check the car's condition before making a final decision. 2. We've got a real treat for you. A 1972 Ford LTD convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at just $6,000, and it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the heart of this LTD, a 300W V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission. That's a classic combination that promises plenty of power and smooth cruising. Plus, this car comes with factory AC, so you can stay cool even on hot summer days with the top down. Speaking of the top, the seller does mention that it needs to be replaced. But don't let that deter you. All the mechanical components for the convertible top are said to be in good working order. It's just the fabric that needs to be swapped out. Now let's talk about the overall condition of this LTD. The seller describes it as a good running and smooth driving car, which is encouraging. They've also made some recent improvements, including new tires, a new carburetor, water pump, fuel pump, thermostat, points, and shocks all around. That's a lot of new components that should help keep this classic running strong. The seller does note that the exhaust manifold is cracked, which is causing the car to run a bit loud. But hey, that just adds to the classic car experience, right? The floors and underbody are said to be solid, which is important for a convertible of this age. As for the interior, it's all there, but the seller admits it shows its age. That's not surprising for a car that's nearly 50 years old. The exterior could also use a new paint job, but the current purple color is definitely eye-catching. You could always choose to drive it as is and embrace that classic patina look. One thing to note, the odometer shows 152,000 miles, which is quite a bit for a car of this age. But with proper maintenance and care, there's no reason this LTD couldn't keep running for many more miles to come. The seller is listing this car for their father and says they have too many projects, so this one needs to go. They're asking $6,000 or best offer, and they're only accepting cash, no trades. The car is located in Spencerville, Indiana, so keep that in mind if you're interested in checking it out. Overall, this 1972 Ford LTD convertible could be a great project car for someone who loves classic American automobiles. It's got a strong engine, recent mechanical improvements, and a lot of potential. Just be prepared to put in some work on the cosmetic side of things. If you're up for the challenge, this could be a really fun car to cruise around in next summer. 3. We're checking out a real blast from the past, a 1978 Ford Fairmont that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic sedan can be yours for just $2,500, and it's got some pretty impressive features for a car of its age. First off, let's talk about the mileage. According to the seller, this Fairmont has only 67,000 miles on the odometer. That's incredibly low for a car that's over 40 years old. It's a testament to how well this car has been cared for over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine paired with an automatic transmission. That's a reliable combination that should provide plenty of power for cruising around town or hitting the highway. And with rear-wheel drive, this Fairmont promises a classic driving experience. The seller describes the car's condition as good, which is encouraging. They note that the car runs and drives nice, which suggests that it's been well maintained mechanically. The tires and battery are also said to be in good shape, so you shouldn't have to worry about replacing those right away. As for the exterior, this Fairmont is rocking a bright yellow paint job that's sure to turn heads. Yellow cars are relatively rare, so this one is bound to stand out in a crowd. The seller doesn't mention anything about the condition of the paint or body, so it's worth taking a closer look in person to see if there are any dings, dents, or rust spots. The interior of the car isn't pictured or described in the ad, so that's another thing you'll want to check out if you're interested in buying this Fairmont. Given the car's age, it's possible that the interior could show some signs of wear and tear. But if it's been well maintained like the rest of the car, it could be in pretty good shape. One thing to keep in mind with an older car like this is that it may not have all the modern features and amenities that we're used to today. Things like air conditioning, power windows, and a modern stereo system may not be present, but for many classic car enthusiasts, that's all part of the charm. Overall, this 1978 Ford Fairmont seems like a solid choice for someone who's looking for a classic car on a budget. With its low mileage, good mechanical condition, and eye-catching color, it's got a lot to offer. And at just $2,500, it's a lot of car for the money. If you're in the market for a vintage sedan that's sure to stand out, this Fairmont is definitely worth checking out. 4. We've got a real gem to share with you, a 1978 Buick Skylark that's up for sale on Craigslist. This rare 2-door Landau coupe is in absolutely mint condition, and it can be yours for $13,500. First off, let's talk about the rarity of this car. The seller notes that it shares the same footprint as a Chevy Nova, but the Skylark has its own unique style and charm. This particular model is a custom variant, which adds to its exclusivity. Under the hood, you'll find a 305 V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission. That's a classic combination that promises plenty of power and smooth cruising. And with rear-wheel drive, this Skylark delivers a true classic car driving experience. Now let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller describes it as mint and 100% original. That's incredibly impressive for a car that's over 40 years old. The odometer shows just 88,000 original kilometers, which is about 54,000 miles, which is very low mileage for a car of this age. The seller notes that the car runs and drives perfectly, and it's been recently tuned up. It's also got new tires, brakes, and a dual exhaust system, so it should be ready to hit the road right away. The car even comes with some custom gauges, a high-rise manifold, a carb, and an engine dress-up kit, which are all nice touches. As for the exterior, this Skylark is finished in a beautiful yellow color that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The seller doesn't mention anything about the condition of the paint or body, but given the car's overall condition, it's likely in excellent shape. The interior of the car isn't pictured or described in the ad, but given the car's like-new condition, it's probably just as impressive as the exterior. You can expect to find classic 70s styling and perhaps even some luxury features like power windows and air conditioning. One thing that's really cool about this Skylark is that it has collector status and comes with collector plates. That means it's been recognized as a significant classic car, and it may even be eligible for special insurance rates and other perks. The seller notes that the car has been garage kept and owned by a senior, which is always a good sign. It suggests that the car has been well cared for and hasn't been subjected to a lot of wear and tear over the years. 5. We've got a real treat for you, a 1969 Chevrolet Caprice that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage coupe can be yours for just $8,500, and while it may need a little TLC, it's got a lot of potential. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Caprice is powered by a V8 engine, which is a classic choice for a car of this era. It's paired with an automatic transmission, which makes for easy cruising. And with rear-wheel drive, this Caprice promises a classic American driving experience. Now, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller describes it as good, which is encouraging. They note that the car runs and drives, which is always a good sign. The body is also said to be straight, which suggests that it hasn't been in any major accidents or suffered from significant rust damage. The interior of the car is described as clean, which is another plus. It's always nice to find a classic car with an interior that's in good shape, as it can be one of the most expensive and time-consuming parts of a restoration project. However, the seller does note that the car needs a little TLC. They don't go into specifics about what kind of work the car needs, but it's important to keep in mind that a car of this age is bound to need some attention. It could be anything from minor cosmetic work to more significant mechanical repairs. The exterior of the car is finished in a blue color, which is a classic choice for a Caprice of this era. The seller doesn't provide any photos, so it's hard to say exactly what shade of blue it is or what condition the paint is in. If you're interested in this car, it's definitely worth asking the seller for more photos or even going to see it in person. One thing to keep in mind with a car like this is that it may not have all the modern features and amenities that we're used to today. Things like air conditioning, power windows, and a modern stereo system may not be present. But for many classic car enthusiasts, that's all part of the charm. Overall, this 1969 Chevrolet Caprice seems like a solid project car for someone who's willing to put in a little work. It's got a straight body, a clean interior, and a classic V8 engine. And at just $8,500, it's a relatively affordable entry point into the world of classic American coupes. 6. We've got a real blast from the past to share with you, a 1972 Chevrolet Nova that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This original four-door sedan can be yours for just $5,500, and while it may need a little work, it's got a lot of potential. First off, let's talk about the history of this car. According to the seller, it's been in storage for at least the past 17 years. That means it's been protected from the elements and hasn't been subjected to daily wear and tear. It's always exciting to find a classic car that's been tucked away like this, as it can be a real-time capsule. Under the hood, you'll find a 307 V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission. That's a classic combination that should provide plenty of power for cruising around town or hitting the highway. And with rear-wheel drive, this Nova promises a true classic car driving experience. Now, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller describes it as good, which is encouraging. They note that there are no major dents, and the chrome and body are in great shape. There is some minor rust, but the seller has buffed a couple of spots to show that it's not too serious. They also note that there's no rust in the trunk, which is a common problem area for cars of this age. The interior of the car isn't pictured or described in detail, but the seller does mention that it has air conditioning. However, it's not currently hooked up, so that's something to keep in mind if you're planning to use this car as a daily driver. One thing to note is that the windshield has a crack, but the seller says it's not in the driver's way. All the other glass is said to be in good shape. The car also comes with all its original wheel covers, which are described as being in great shape. The seller has done some recent maintenance on the car, including a fresh oil change and tune-up. They've also installed a new fuel tank, which is a nice bonus. However, they do note that the tires look good, but are very old, so that's something you'll want to address if you're planning to drive the car regularly. Overall, this 1972 Chevrolet Nova seems like a solid project car for someone who's willing to put in a little work. It's got a strong V8 engine, a classic body style, and a lot of original features. The asking price of $5,500 seems reasonable for a car of this age and condition, especially considering the recent maintenance and upgrades. 7. We've got a real gem to share with you, a 1983 Buick Riviera convertible that's up for sale on Craigslist. This beautiful drop top can be yours for $13,500 or best offer, and it's a rare find that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. First off, let's talk about the rarity of this car. According to the seller, only 1,050 Riviera convertibles were made in 1983. That makes this car a true collector's item, and it's sure to appreciate in value over time. If you're looking for a classic car that's both rare and stylish, this Riviera is definitely worth considering. Now, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, which is always great to hear. They don't provide a lot of details about the car's history or any recent maintenance or upgrades, but the overall impression is that this Riviera has been well cared for over the years. One of the standout features of this car is its power convertible top. There's nothing quite like cruising down the road with the wind in your hair, and this Riviera makes it easy to do just that. The seller doesn't mention anything about the condition of the top, but given the car's overall excellent condition, it's likely in good shape. The exterior of the car is finished in a classic white color, which looks great on a convertible like this. The seller doesn't provide any photos, so it's hard to say exactly what the paint looks like up close. But if it's as nice as the rest of the car, it's probably in great shape. Under the hood, you'll find a gas-powered engine that the seller says runs and drives excellently. They don't provide any specifics about the engine size or horsepower, but Rivieras of this era were known for their smooth, powerful rides. With 108,000 miles on the odometer, this car has likely been enjoyed over the years, but it still has plenty of life left in it. The interior of the car isn't pictured or described in the ad, so that's something you'll want to check out if you're interested in buying this Riviera. Given the car's excellent overall condition, it's likely that the interior is in good shape as well. You can expect to find classic Buick luxury features like power windows, power locks, and a premium sound system. Overall, this 1983 Buick Riviera convertible seems like an excellent find for any classic car enthusiast. It's rare, it's in great condition, and it's got a lot of style and character. The asking price of $13,500 may seem high for a Riviera, but given the car's rarity and condition, it's actually quite reasonable. 8. We've got a real throwback to share with you, a 1976 Chevrolet Malibu Classic that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This two-door coupe can be yours for just $6,150, and it's got a lot of vintage charm. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Malibu is powered by a V8 engine, which is a classic choice for a car of this era. It's paired with an automatic transmission, which makes for easy cruising. And with rear-wheel drive, this Malibu promises a classic American driving experience. Now, let's talk about the condition of this car. Unfortunately, the seller doesn't provide a lot of details about the car's overall condition or history. They don't mention anything about the car's mileage, which is a bit of a red flag. It's possible that the odometer has stopped working or has been replaced at some point, so it's hard to say how many miles are actually on this car. The seller also doesn't provide any photos of the car's exterior or interior, which makes it tough to get a sense of its overall condition. They do mention that the car has a clean title, which is a good sign, but without more information or photos, it's hard to say whether this Malibu is in excellent shape or needs a lot of work. One thing to keep in mind with a car like this is that it may not have all the modern features and amenities that we're used to today. Things like air conditioning, power windows, and a modern stereo system may not be present. But for many classic car enthusiasts, that's all part of the charm. The asking price of $6,150 seems reasonable for a Malibu of this era, especially if it's in good condition. However, without more information about the car's history and condition, it's tough to say whether it's a good deal or not. If you're seriously interested in this car, it's definitely worth reaching out to the seller and asking for more details and photos. You'll want to know things like the car's mileage, any recent maintenance or upgrades, and whether there are any known issues or problems. Overall, this 1976 Chevrolet Malibu Classic seems like a cool find for someone who's into vintage American coupes. It's got a classic V8 engine, a clean title, and a lot of potential. However, without more information about the car's condition and history, it's tough to say whether it's a good buy or not. 9. We've got a real gem to share with you. A 1965 Buick Electra 225 that's up for sale on Craigslist. This stunning sedan can be yours for $12,500, and it's a true piece of American automotive history that's been lovingly maintained over the years. First off, let's talk about the heart of this beast, a rebuilt 401 nailhead engine with a 4-barrel carb. This powerful V8 is paired with a smooth-shifting 3-speed turbo 400 automatic transmission, making for an effortless driving experience. The seller notes that the car runs and drives beautifully, so you can hop in and hit the road with confidence. Now let's talk about the condition of this Electra. The seller mentions that it's been meticulously maintained and garage kept throughout its life, which is always a great sign. The car has received one repaint in its original color, and the interior has been restored using original fabric. That means you're getting a classic car that looks and feels just like it did when it rolled off the assembly line back in 1965. One of the coolest things about this Electra is that all of its power features are in working order. That includes the windows, seats, and even the rear cigarette lighter. It's rare to find a classic car with all of its original features still functioning, so that's a real bonus. The seller also notes that the car comes with its original air filter housing, bumper jack, manuals, and service records. That's a treasure trove of documentation that any classic car collector would love to have. It's clear that this Electra has been well loved and cared for over the years. Now let's talk about the potential downsides. The seller doesn't mention anything about the car's mileage, which is a bit of a question mark. It's possible that the odometer has been replaced or stopped working at some point, so it's hard to say exactly how many miles are on this car. However, given the car's overall excellent condition, it's likely that it hasn't been driven too heavily over the years. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic American sedan that's dripping with style and character, this 1965 Buick Electra 225 is definitely worth checking out. With its powerful engine, smooth transmission, and beautifully restored interior and exterior, it's a true turnkey cruiser that's ready for any adventure. Whether you're looking to hit the car show circuit or just enjoy a weekend cruise, this Electra is sure to turn heads and put a smile on your face. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history. 10. We've got a real treat for you. A rare 1972 Ford LTD convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage drop top is priced at $15,000, and while it may need some work, it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the rarity of this car. The LTD convertible was a limited production model in 1972, so finding one today is a real score. This particular example has been mechanically restored, with a rebuilt motor and transmission that should provide plenty of power and reliability. Under the hood, you'll find a 400 Midland V8 engine paired with a C6 automatic transmission that's been upgraded with a shift kit. The seller has also rebuilt the 9-inch rear end with vented disc brakes and a limited slip differential, which should make for a great driving experience. Now, let's talk about the condition of this LTD. The seller describes it as fair, which suggests that it's not in perfect shape. The car needs paint and interior work, so it's definitely a project car. However, the seller has included a lot of new old stock, NOS parts, including a complete front bumper and grille, rear bumper, and a new painless wiring harness. These parts alone are worth a lot of money and will make the restoration process much easier. One of the standout features of this LTD is its convertible top. The seller has installed new hydraulic rams, and the top opens and closes perfectly. However, the top itself needs new fabric, so that's something to keep in mind if you're considering this car. The seller has also made some nice upgrades to the suspension and wheels. The car has been lowered 1.5 inches in the rear and 2 inches in the front, giving it a nice stance. It also has newer American Racing custom offset wheels and new tires, which look great. Inside, the car has a decent stereo system with an amp and subwoofer. However, the seller notes that the interior needs work, so you'll want to budget for some upgrades there. Overall, this 1972 Ford LTD convertible is a rare find that's sure to turn heads. It's got a lot of potential for the right buyer who's willing to put in some work. The asking price of $15,000 may seem high for a car that needs paint and interior work, but the rarity of the model and the included NOS parts make it a fair price. 11. We've got a real piece of American automotive history to share with you. A 1965 Ford Thunderbird that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage cruiser can be yours for just $4,000, but as the seller notes, it's not without its flaws. First off, let's talk about the basics. This T-Bird is powered by a gas engine and has an automatic transmission, which is exactly what you'd expect from a classic American luxury car. The odometer shows 99,000 miles, which is pretty reasonable for a car that's over 50 years old. Now, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller is upfront about the fact that it needs paint, which is a pretty significant issue. They don't provide any photos, so it's hard to say exactly how bad the paint is or whether there's any rust or other body damage. However, the fact that the seller drove the car from Lebanon suggests that it's at least mechanically sound. The seller doesn't provide any other details about the car's condition, so there are a lot of unknowns here. We don't know anything about the interior, the tires, the brakes, or any other mechanical systems. It's possible that this T-Bird needs a lot of work beyond just a paint job. That being said, the asking price of $4,000 is pretty low for a classic Thunderbird, even one that needs work. These cars are highly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts, and finding one for under $10,000 is becoming increasingly rare. If you're considering this car, it's definitely worth reaching out to the seller and asking for more details and photos. You'll want to know things like whether the engine runs smoothly, whether the transmission shifts properly, and whether there are any other major issues that need to be addressed. You'll also want to consider the cost of a paint job and any other necessary repairs. Depending on the extent of the work needed, you could be looking at several $1,000s in additional expenses. However, if you're handy with tools and you're willing to put in the work yourself, you could potentially save a lot of money. Overall, this 1965 Ford Thunderbird is a classic car with a lot of potential, but it's not without its risks. The low asking price is certainly attractive, but the lack of information about the car's condition means that you'll need to do your due diligence before making a purchase. 12. We've got a real treat for you. A 1965 Plymouth Valiant 200 convertible that's just begging to hit the open road. This little red beauty has been in the same family for generations, and it's finally ready to find a new home. Now I've got to be straight with you. This car isn't perfect. It's been sleeping at the lake cottage for a while, so it needed some TLC to get it roadworthy. The sellers lubricated the cylinders, put in a new battery, and even rebuilt the carburetor to make sure it runs smoothly. They also had to do some work on the brakes, replacing the drums, shoes, wheel cylinders, and hardware. But hey, that's just part of the charm of owning a classic car, right? The Valiant's got some great features like power steering, an aftermarket stereo, and even a musical horn that's sure to turn heads. And let me tell you, this car is a real head-turner. The sellers took it for a spin around the neighborhood and got plenty of thumbs up from admirers. Now, there are a few things you should know before you fall head over heels for this convertible. The top is showing some wear, especially on the back window, so you might want to replace that. There's also some corrosion in the floor, and while the tires have plenty of tread, they're getting up there in age. But let's talk about the good stuff. The two-tone red interior is in great shape, and everything works like a charm. Under the hood, you've got a 273 cubic inch V8 engine and a 3-speed TorqueFlite automatic transmission that'll make your heart race. The sellers are asking $6,850 for this beauty, but they're open to reasonable offers. And hey, they don't need any help selling, so you can deal with them directly. All in all, this 1965 Plymouth Valiant 200 convertible is a real gem. It's got a few imperfections, but that's just part of its story. If you're looking for a classic car that's sure to make a statement, this might just be the one for you. 13. We're taking a closer look at a 1964 Plymouth Valiant that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic sedan has been lovingly owned by the same person since 2000, and it's clear they've put a lot of work into keeping it in top shape. Let's start with the interior. The seller has gone all out with new weather stripping, a new headliner, although it's not yet installed, new carpet, a new armrest, and even reupholstered seats. You can tell they've really put some effort into making this car feel like new again. Under the hood, The Valiant is packing a 6-cylinder engine that's been treated to all new mechanical parts, or rebuilt components. The transmission has also been professionally rebuilt, so you can expect smooth shifting and reliable performance. But the upgrades don't stop there. This Valiant has also been fitted with new brakes, including drums, shoes, wheel cylinders, and master cylinders. The wiring harness, gas tank, radiator, exhaust, and suspension have all been replaced as well, so you can be sure that everything is in good working order. And with practically new tires, you'll be ready to hit the road as soon as you get behind the wheel. Now, the seller does mention that the car is in fair condition, so it's important to keep that in mind. While they've clearly done a lot of work to get this Valiant into shape, it may still have some imperfections or areas that need attention. But hey, that's all part of the charm of owning a classic car, right? The seller is asking $6,500 or best offer for this 1964 Plymouth Valiant. And they're not interested in any trades. Considering all the work that's gone into this car, that seems like a pretty fair price to me. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic sedan with a lot of character and some great upgrades, this 1964 Plymouth Valiant is definitely worth checking out. Just be prepared to put in a little extra love and attention to keep it running strong for years to come. 14. We've got a 1982 Chevy Camaro that's looking for a new home. This third-gen Camaro is up for sale on Craigslist, and it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. First things first, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Camaro is packing a new 350 small block Chevy engine and a TH200C transmission with a new torque converter. That's a solid foundation for a powerful ride, but it's important to note that the motor still needs some finishing touches. You'll need to add motor accessories, a fuel pump, radiator, fans, transmission and fuel lines, and hoses to get this baby up and running. But don't let that discourage you. The seller has already taken care of some important upgrades, like new motor and transmission mounts, a new crossmember and secondary crossmember bushings, a new driveshaft torque arm bushing, and driveshaft links. These are all important components that will help ensure a smooth and reliable ride. Moving on to the interior, the seller rates it a 6 out of 10. It's all there, but it could use some love. The good news is that there's a new Swede headliner and door panels, so you've got a head start on making this Camaro's cabin look and feel great. As for the body, the seller says it's straight with no dents. That's always a plus when you're dealing with a classic car. And speaking of classic, this Camaro is a non-cut-up third gen, which means it hasn't been hacked up or modified in ways that might hurt its value or performance. Now let's talk price. The seller is asking $4,000 or best offer for this Camaro, but they're also open to trades. Specifically, they're looking for a 4-door truck in the same price range. So if you've got a truck you're looking to trade, this might be your chance to score a sweet Camaro. Overall, this 1982 Chevy Camaro is a solid project car with a lot of potential. It's got a new engine and transmission, some important upgrades, and a straight body. With a little bit of work and some TLC, this Camaro could be a real head-turner. If you're up for the challenge and you've got $4,000 burning a hole in your pocket, or a truck to trade, this might be the perfect project for you. 15. We've got a real treat for you, a 1970 Ford Ranchero that's looking for a new home. This beauty is being sold on Craigslist, and let me tell you, it's got a lot going for it. First off, let's talk about the heart of this beast. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 302 5.0L V8 engine with 150,000 miles on it. Now, I know that might sound like a lot, but don't let that number fool you. This engine has been rebuilt, and it runs like a dream. Plus, it's got a new carburetor, so you can expect smooth, reliable performance every time you turn the key. Moving on to the interior, the seller has really gone the extra mile to make this Ranchero feel like new again. The bench seat, door panels, dash pad, and headliner have all been replaced, so you can cruise in comfort and style. And let me tell you, this thing sounds as good as it looks. The exhaust note from that 302 is sure to turn heads wherever you go. Now, I do want to point out a couple of things that you should be aware of. The odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is a bit of a mystery. But given the rebuilt engine and the overall excellent condition of this Ranchero, I wouldn't let that deter you. The seller also notes that it needs a new paint job and some door seals, but hey, that's just part of the fun of owning a classic car. You get to make it your own. Speaking of the overall condition, the seller describes it as excellent, and I have to agree. This Ranchero has been well cared for by its elderly owner, and it shows. There are no rust holes, and all the trim is intact. It's a very nice, original old classic that's just begging for a new owner to take it out on the open road. So, what's the bottom line? The seller is asking $8,000 for this 1970 Ford Ranchero, and in my opinion, that's a pretty fair price. You're getting a rebuilt engine, a refreshed interior, and a solid rust-free body. Plus, it's a Ranchero. These things are getting harder and harder to find in good condition, so if you've been looking for one, this might be your chance. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic car with a lot of character and a ton of potential, this 1970 Ford Ranchero is definitely worth checking out. It's got a strong engine, a comfortable interior, and a look that's sure to turn heads. And with a little bit of TLC, you could have a real showstopper on your hands. 16. We've got a real gem for you. A 1962 Ford Galaxie 500 that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is a true blast from the past, and it's got all the right features to make it a standout in any collection. Under the hood, you'll find a Z-Code 390 FE engine that's sure to get your heart racing. This big block is paired with a Cruise-O-Matic transmission, so you can expect smooth, effortless shifting as you cruise down the road. And with a 4-barrel Edelbrock carburetor, an electric fan, and a 12V alternator, this Galaxie has been updated with some modern conveniences that make it a joy to drive. But that's not all. This Galaxie also comes with factory power steering and working factory AC. That's right, you can enjoy a comfortable ride even on the hottest summer days. And with an aluminum radiator, you won't have to worry about overheating. When it comes to the exhaust, this Galaxie doesn't disappoint. It's got a 2.50-inch true dual exhaust system with thrush glass packs that give it a deep, throaty rumble. And with 14/7 reverse Supreme wheels, it's got a stance that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Inside you'll find an AM/FM Bluetooth radio that's been upgraded with 2 Kicker 6X9 speakers and 2 2.5-inch Kicker Dash speakers. So not only does this Galaxie look great, but it sounds great too. Now the seller does mention that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. But they also describe the car as a clean, running vehicle that's ready for a new owner to enjoy. And with a price tag of $15,000, it's a fair deal for a classic car of this caliber. The only downside? The seller has too many projects going on and needs to let this one go. But hey, that's good news for you. If you're in the market for a classic car with a ton of character and some great features, this 1962 Ford Galaxie 500 is definitely worth checking out. Overall, this Galaxie is a true gem. With its powerful engine, smooth transmission, and modern upgrades, it's a car that's sure to impress. And with its classic good looks and throaty exhaust, it's a car that's sure to turn heads. So if you've been looking for a vintage ride that's got it all, this might just be the one for you. 17. We've got a unique opportunity for all you project car lovers out there. Up for sale on Craigslist is a 1973 Chevrolet Nova, and let me tell you, this thing is a blank canvas just waiting for your creative touch. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. This Nova is a roller. That means it's got no motor and no transmission. But don't let that discourage you. This is your chance to build the Nova of your dreams from the ground up. The seller has already done some of the hard work for you. The interior is in great shape, with new gauges, carpet, and even some used bucket seats to give it that sporty feel. And when it comes to stopping power, you'll be glad to know that the front rotors and disc pads are brand new. Under the rear end, you'll find a 410 differential with a spool. That's the perfect setup for a high-performance build, whether you're looking to drag race or just smoke the tires at the local car show. Now, I do want to mention that the seller describes the car as being in good condition. While that may be true for the interior and some of the mechanical components, it's important to remember that this is a project car. There may be some rust or other issues that need to be addressed, so be sure to give it a thorough inspection before making an offer. Speaking of offers, the seller is asking just $4,500 for this Nova. Considering the potential it has, that's a pretty sweet deal. But there's a catch: the seller needs it gone today. So if you're serious about taking on this project, you'll need to act fast. The good news is that this Nova is exempt from smog regulations, so you won't have to worry about that headache. And the seller has the pink slip in hand, so transferring ownership should be a breeze. Overall, this 1973 Chevrolet Nova is the perfect project car for someone who wants to build something truly unique. With a solid foundation and some key components already in place, you'll be able to focus on the fun stuff, like dropping in a big block or building a custom suspension. And at just $4,500, it's a bargain for a car with this much potential. 18. We've got a real treat for you. A 1965 Ford Mustang that's been lovingly cared for by a single family for decades. This classic pony car is up for sale on Craigslist, and let me tell you, it's a beauty. First things first, let's talk about the heart of this Mustang. Under the hood, you'll find the original 200 cubic inch straight six engine. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, a six-cylinder in a Mustang? But don't let that fool you. This engine has been completely gone through, with a checked and planned head, new valves and springs, a new head gasket, and even electronic ignition. It's got plenty of pep to get you down the road in style. But the upgrades don't stop there. This Mustang has been treated to a host of new components, including an upgraded radiator, hoses, thermostat, and cap. The gas tank and sending unit have been replaced, and there's a new carburetor to keep things running smoothly. The brakes have been upgraded to discs up front, with new rotors, lines, and a power brake booster. And out back, there's a new 8.8-inch rear axle with fresh gears. Inside, you'll find new carpet, with the original stock carpet included, as well as the original door panels. The seller even has the original front seat upholstery set ready to be installed. And speaking of original, the body on this Mustang is as straight as an arrow with no dents whatsoever. There's a bit of slight surface rust on the exterior, but that's to be expected on a car that's been around for over half a century. Now, I do want to mention that the seller describes the car as being in good condition. While that's certainly true for the mechanicals and interior, it's important to note that the paint will need some attention. But hey, that's just part of the fun of owning a classic car, right? The seller is asking $10,000 for this 1965 Mustang, and in my opinion, that's a pretty fair price. You're getting a car that's been meticulously maintained and upgraded, with a clean title and a history of single-family ownership. Plus, it's a Mustang. These cars are iconic for a reason, and they're only going to become more valuable as time goes on. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Mustang that's been treated right, this one is definitely worth checking out. With its original engine, upgraded components, and straight body, it's a car that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 19. We've got a real gem for you, a 1963 Mercury Marauder that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This full-size beauty is a rare find, and it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's ready to rumble. The seller mentions that the car runs great, so you can expect a smooth and exhilarating ride every time you get behind the wheel. And with rear-wheel drive, you'll have plenty of control and traction on the road. Now, I do want to mention that the seller notes the car needs some brake work. While this isn't uncommon for a vehicle of this age, it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. You'll want to factor in the cost of any necessary repairs when determining your budget. That being said, the seller describes the overall condition of the car as good. This suggests that the Marauder has been well maintained over the years and doesn't have any major issues beyond the brakes. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a final decision. One thing that really sets this Marauder apart is its transmission. With an automatic transmission, you'll be able to cruise down the highway with ease without having to worry about shifting gears. This is a great feature for those who want a classic car that's easy to drive and enjoy. The seller is asking $14,000 for this 1963 Mercury Marauder, which is a fair price for a car of this caliber. These full-size coupes are becoming increasingly rare, and they're highly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts alike. Plus, with delivery available, you won't have to worry about arranging transportation if you're not local to the seller. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic car with plenty of style and power, this 1963 Mercury Marauder is definitely worth checking out. With its 8-cylinder engine, automatic transmission, and good overall condition, it's a car that's sure to impress. Just be sure to budget for any necessary brake work, and you'll be ready to hit the road in style. 20. We've got a sweet little project car for you, a 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass with T-tops. This classic ride is up for sale on Craigslist, and it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. Under the hood, you'll find a 4.3-liter V8 engine that's ready to rumble. The seller has recently given this Cutlass some much-needed TLC, including a tune-up, a new transmission, valve cover gaskets, a rear main seal, and fresh oil, so you can rest assured that the mechanicals are in good shape. Now, I do want to be upfront about the condition of this Cutlass. The seller describes it as a nice lil project, which suggests that it's not in perfect condition. The interior, in particular, needs some work due to the T-tops. The seller mentions that the upholstery is burned, but they also suggest using some nice G-blanket covers as a temporary solution. Despite the interior issues, the seller still describes the overall condition of the car as good. It runs and drives, which is a big plus for any project car. And with a little bit of elbow grease and some creative interior solutions, you could have this Cutlass looking and feeling like new in no time. One thing to keep in mind is that the tags on this Cutlass are expired. However, the seller notes that it's currently in non-operation status, which means there are no back fees to worry about. And with a clean title in hand, transferring ownership should be a breeze. The seller is asking $6,200 for this 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass, which is a fair price for a classic car with this much potential. T-top models are always in high demand, and the recent mechanical upgrades make this one a solid choice for anyone looking for a fun project car. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Oldsmobile with a ton of character and a V8 engine under the hood, this 1978 Cutlass is definitely worth checking out. Just be prepared to put in a little work on the interior, and you'll have a ride that's sure to turn heads wherever you go.